Kiev or Kyiv. Russian, THSHTHTH micron TH squared, K squared ಃkɪjiw, is the capital and the largest city of Ukraine, located in the north-central part of the country on the Dnieper River. The population in July 2013 was 700,628,472,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000, industrial, scientific, educational, and cultural center of Eastern Europe. It is home to many high-tech industries, higher education institutions and world-famous historical landmarks. The city has an extensive infrastructure and highly developed system of public transport, including the Kiev Metro. The city's name is said to derive from the name of Kyiv, one of its 4 legendary founders. During its history, Kiev, one of the oldest cities in Eastern Europe, passed through several stages of great prominence and relative obscurity. The city probably existed as a commercial center as early as the 5th century. A Slavic settlement on the great trade route between Scandinavia and Constantinople, Kiev was a tributary of the Khyvs, until seized by the Varangians in the mid-9th century. Under Varangian rule, the city became a capital of the Kievan Rus, the first East Slavic state. Completely destroyed during the Mongol invasion in 1240, the city lost most of its influence for the centuries to come. It was a provincial capital of marginal importance in the outskirts of the territories controlled by its powerful neighbors. First the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, followed by Poland and Russia. The city prospered again during the Russian Empire's Industrial Revolution in the late 19th century. In 1917, after the Ukrainian National Republic declared independence from the Russian Empire, Kiev became its capital. From 1919 Kiev was an important center of the armed forces of South Russia and was controlled by the White Army. From 1921 onwards Kiev was a city of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, which was proclaimed by the Red Army, and, from 1934, Kiev was its capital. During World War II, the city again suffered significant damage, but quickly recovered in the post-war years, remaining the 3rd largest city of the Soviet Union. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union and Ukrainian independence in 1991, Kiev remained the capital of Ukraine and experienced a steady migration influx of ethnic Ukrainians from other regions of the country. During the country's transformation to a market economy and electoral democracy, Kiev has continued to be Ukraine's largest and richest city. Kiev's armament-dependent industrial output fell after the Soviet collapse, adversely affecting science and technology. But new sectors of the economy such as services and finance facilitated Kiev's growth in salaries and investment, as well as providing continuous funding for the development of housing and urban infrastructure. Kiev emerged as the most pro-Western and pro-democracy region of Ukraine where parties advocating tighter integration with the European Union dominate during elections. Etymology. Currently, Kiev is the traditional and most commonly used English name for the city, but in 1995 the Ukrainian government adopted Kyiv as the mandatory Romanization for use in legislative and official acts. As a prominent city with a long history, its English name was subject to gradual evolution. The early English spelling was derived from Old East Slavic form kij, derived from Kyiv, the legendary founder of the city. Early English sources use various names, including Kyiv, 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 Kyiv. On one of the oldest English maps of the region, Russian, Moscoviae Tartarii published by Ortelius, the name of the city is spelled Kyiv. On the 1650 map by Guillaume de Beplan, the name of the city is Kyiv, and the region was named Kyiv. In the book Travels, by Joseph Marshall, the city is referred to as Kyiv. While the choice of these spellings has likely been influenced by the Polish name of the city, as until mid-17th century the city was controlled by Poland, the name Kiev that started to take hold at later times, likely originates on the basis of Russian orthography and pronunciation, ๊kɪjiw, during a time when Kiev was in the Russian Empire. In English, Kiev was used in print as early as in 1804 in the John Carey's New Map of Europe, from the latest authorities in Carey's New Universal Atlas published in London. The English travelogue titled New Russia, Journey from Riga to the Crimea by way of Kiev, by Mary Holderness was published in 1823. By 1883, the Oxford English Dictionary included Kiev in a quotation. Kiev is also based on the old Ukrainian language spelling of the city name and was used by Ukrainians and their ancestors from the time of Kievan Rus until only about the last century. Kyiv is the Romanized version of the name of the city used in modern Ukrainian. Following independence in 1991, the Ukrainian government introduced the national rules for transliteration of geographic names from Ukrainian into English. According to the rules, the Ukrainian thshthn, th squared transliterates into Kyiv. This has established the use of the spelling Kyiv in all official documents issued by the governmental authorities since October 1995. The spelling is used by the United Nations, all English-speaking foreign diplomatic missions, several international organizations, Encarta Encyclopedia, and by some media in Ukraine. In October 2006, the United States federal government changed its official spelling of the city name to Kyiv, upon the recommendation of the U.S. Board of Geographic Names. The British government has also started using Kyiv. The alternate romanizations Kyiv and ＫyiJIV are also in use in English-language atlases. Most major English-language news sources like the BBC continue to use Kiev. History. Kiev is one of the oldest cities of Eastern Europe and has played a pivotal role in the development of the medieval East Slavic civilization as well as in the modern Ukrainian nation. It is believed that Kiev was founded in the late 9th century. The origin of the city is obscured by legends, one of which tells about a founding family consisting of a Slavic tribe leader Kyiv, the eldest, his brothers Shchek and Koriv, and also their sister Libid, who founded the city. According to it, the name Kiev means to belong to Kyiv. Some claim to find reference to the city in Ptolemya unregistered trademark work as the metropolity. Another legend states that St. Andrew passed through the area and where he erected a cross, a church was built. Also, since the Middle Ages, an image of the St. Michael represented the city as well as the duchy. There is little historical evidence pertaining to the period when the city was founded. Scattered Slavic settlements existed in the area from the 6th century, but it is unclear whether any of them later developed into the city. 8th century fortifications were built upon a Slavic settlement apparently abandoned some decades before. It is still unclear whether these fortifications were built by the Slavs or the Khazars. If it was the Slavic peoples, then it is also uncertain when Kiev fell under the rule of the Khazar Empire or whether the city was, in fact, founded by the Khazars. The primary chronicle mentions Slavic Kivans telling Askold and that they live without a local ruler and pay a tribute to the Khazars in an event attributed to the 9th century. At least during the 8th and 9th centuries, Kiev functioned as an outpost of the Khazar Empire. A hill fortress, called Sambat, was built to defend the area. At some point during the late 9th or early 10th century, Kiev fell under the rule of Varangians and became the nucleus of the Rus polity. The date given for Oleg's conquest of the town in the primary chronicle is 882, but some historians, such as Emeljan Pritsak and Konstantin Zukerman, dispute this and maintain that Khazar rule continued as late as the 920s. Other historians suggest that the Magyar tribes ruled the city between 840 and 878, before migrating with some Khazar tribes to Hungary. According to these, the building of the fortress of Kiev was finished in 840 by the lead of Kazar and Gira. Copyright B, the three brothers, possibly members of the Tajar N tribe. During the 8th and 9th centuries, Kiev was an outpost of the Khazar Empire. However, being located on the historical trade route from the Varangians to the Greeks and starting in the late 9th century or early 10th century, Kiev was ruled by the Varangian nobility and became the nucleus of the Rus polity, whose golden age has from the 19th century become referred to as Kievan Rus. In 968, the nomadic Pechenegs attacked and then besieged the city. In 1000 AD the city had a population of 45,000. In 1203 Kiev was captured and burned by Prince Rurik Rostislavic and his Kipchak allies. In the 1230s the city was besieged and ravaged by different Rus princes several times. In 1240 the Mongol invasion of Rus led by Bachu Khan completely destroyed Kiev, an event that had a profound effect on the future of the city and the East Slavic civilization. At the time of the Mongol destruction, Kiev was reputed as one of the largest cities in the world, with a population exceeding 100,000 in the beginning of the early 12th century. In the early 1320s, a Lithuanian army led by Gediminas defeated a Slavic army led by Stanislav of Kiev at the battle on the Dnieper River, and conquered the city. The Tatars, who also claimed Kiev, retaliated in 1324–1325, so while Kiev was ruled by a Lithuanian prince, it had to pay a tribute to the Golden Horde. Finally, as a result of the Battle of Blue Waters in 1362, Kiev and surrounding areas were incorporated into the Grand Duchy of Lithuania by Olgirdus, Grand Duke of Lithuania. In 1482, the Crimean Tatars sacked and burned much of Kiev. In 1569, when the Polish-Euro-Lithuanian Commonwealth was established, the Lithuanian-controlled lands of the Kiev region, Podolia, Volhynia, and Podlachia, were transferred from the Grand Duchy of Lithuania to the Crown of the Kingdom of Poland, and Kiev became the capital of Kiev Voivodeship. In 1658, Kiev was supposed to become the capital of the Duchy of Rus within the Polish-Euro-Lithuanian Commonwealth, but the treaty was never ratified to this extent. Kept by the Russian troops since 1654, it became a part of the Tsardom of Russia from 1667 on and enjoyed a degree of autonomy. None of the Polish-Russian treaties concerning Kiev have ever been ratified. In the Russian Empire, Kiev was a primary Christian center, attracting pilgrims, and the cradle of many of the empire's most important religious figures, but until the 19th century the city's commercial importance remained marginal. In 1834, the St. Vladimir University was established. It is now called the Taras Shevchenko National University of Kiev after the Ukrainian poet Taras Shevchenko. Shevchenko was a field researcher and editor for the geography department. The medical faculty of the St. Vladimir University has been separated into an independent institution during the Soviet period and is called now Obolets National Medical University. During the 18th and 19th centuries, city life was dominated by the Russian military and ecclesiastical authorities. The Russian Orthodox Church formed a significant part of Kiev's infrastructure and business activity. In the late 1840s, the historian, Mykola Kostomarov, founded a secret political society, the Brotherhood of St. Cyril and Methodius, whose members put forward the idea of a federation of free Slavic people with Ukrainians as a distinct and separate group rather than a subordinate part of the Russian nation. The society was quickly suppressed by the authorities. Following the gradual loss of Ukraine's autonomy, Kiev experienced growing Russification in the 19th century by means of Russian migration, administrative actions and social modernization. At the beginning of the 20th century, the city center was dominated by the Russian-speaking part of the population, while the lower classes living on the outskirts retained Ukrainian folk culture to a significant extent. However, enthusiasts among ethnic Ukrainian nobles, military and merchants made recurrent attempts to preserve native culture in Kiev. During the Russian Industrial Revolution in the late 19th century, Kiev became an important trade and transportation center of the Russian Empire, specializing in sugar and grain export by railway and on the Dnieper River. By 1900, the city had also become a significant industrial center, having a population of 250,000. Landmarks of that period include the railway infrastructure, the foundation of numerous educational and cultural facilities as well as notable architectural monuments. The first electric tram line of the Russian Empire was established in Kiev. Kiev prospered during the late 19th century Industrial Revolution in the Russian Empire, when it became the third most important city of the empire and the major center of commerce of his southwest. In the turbulent period following the 1917 Russian Revolution, Kiev became the capital of several short-lived Ukrainian states and was caught in the middle of several conflicts, World War I, during which it was occupied by German soldiers from March 2, 1918 to November 1918, the Russian Civil War, and the Polish-Euro-Soviet War. Kiev changed hands 16 times from the end of 1918 to August 1920. Starting in 1921, the city was a part of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, a founding republic of the Soviet Union. Kiev was greatly affected by all the major processes that took place in Soviet Ukraine during the interwar period, the 1920s Ukrainization as well as the migration of the rural Ukrainophone population made the Russophone city Ukrainian-speaking and propped up the development of the Ukrainian cultural life in the city. The Soviet industrialization that started in the late 1920s turned the city, a former center of commerce and religion, into a major industrial, technological and scientific center. The 1932–1933 Great Famine devastated the part of the migrant population not registered for the ration cards, and Joseph Stalin's Great Purge of 1937–1938 almost eliminated the city's intelligentsia. In 1934 Kiev became the capital of Soviet Ukraine. The city boomed again during the years of the Soviet industrialization as its population grew rapidly and many industrial giants were created, some of which exist to this day. In World War II, the city again suffered significant damage, and was occupied by Nazi Germany from September 19, 1941 to November 6, 1943. More than 600,000 Soviet soldiers were killed or captured in the Great Encirclement Battle of Kiev in 1941. Most of them never returned alive. Shortly after the city was occupied, a team of NKVD officers that had remained hidden dynamited most of the buildings on the Kyiv, the main street of the city, most of whose buildings were being used by German military and civil authorities. The buildings burned for days and 25,000 people were left homeless. Allegedly in response to the actions of the NKVD, the Germans rounded up all the local Jews they could find, nearly 34,000, and massacred them at Babi Yar over the course of 29 September 30, 1941. Kiev recovered economically in the post-war years, becoming once again the third most important city of the Soviet Union. The catastrophic accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in 1986 occurred only 100 km north of the city. However, the prevailing northward winds blew most of the radioactive debris away from the city. In the wake of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Declaration of Independence of Ukraine was proclaimed in the city by the Ukrainian Parliament on August 24, 1991. In 2004–2005, the city played host to until then the largest post-Soviet public demonstrations, in support of the Orange Revolution. From November 2013 until February 2014, central Kiev was the primary location of Euromaidan. Environment. Geography. Geographically, Kiev belongs to the Polessia ecological zone. However, the city's unique landscape distinguishes it from the surrounding region. Kiev is located on both sides of the Dnieper River, which flows south through the city towards the Black Sea. The older right bank part of the city is represented by numerous woody hills, ravines and small rivers. It is a part of the larger Dnieper upland adjoining the western bank of the Dnieper in its mid-flow. Kiev expanded to the Dnieper's lowland left bank only in the 20th century. Significant areas of the left bank Dnieper Valley were artificially sand-deposited, and are protected by dams. The Dnieper River forms a branching system of tributaries, isles, and harbors within the city limits. The city is adjoined by the mouth of the Desna River and the Kiev Reservoir in the north, and the Kyiv Reservoir in the south. Both the Dnieper and Desna rivers are navigable at Kiev, although regulated by the reservoir shipping locks and limited by winter freeze-over. In total, there are 448 bodies of open water within the boundaries of Kiev, which include Dnieper itself, its reservoirs, and several small rivers, dozens of lakes and artificially created ponds. They occupy 79.49 hectares of territory. Additionally, the city boasts of 16 developed beaches and 35 near-water recreational areas. Many are used for pleasure and recreation, although some of the bodies of water are not suitable for swimming. According to the UN 2011 evaluation, there were no risks of natural disasters in Kiev and its metropolitan area. Climate. Kiev has a humid continental climate. The warmest months are June, July, and August, with mean temperatures of 13.8 to 24.8 degrees Celsius. The coldest are December, January, and February, with mean temperatures of a 4.6 to a 1.1 degrees Celsius. The highest ever temperature recorded in the city was 39.4 degrees Celsius on July 31, 1936. The coldest temperature ever recorded in the city was a 32.2 degrees Celsius on 7th and 9th February 1929. Snow cover usually lies from mid-November to the end of March, with the frost-free period lasting 180 days on average, but surpassing 200 days in recent years. Legal status, local government and politics, legal status and local government. The municipality of the city of Kiev has a special legal status within Ukraine compared to the other administrative subdivisions of the country. The most significant difference is that the city is considered as a region of Ukraine. It is the only city that has double jurisdiction. The head of city-state administration, the city's governor, is appointed by the President of Ukraine, while the head of the city council, the mayor of Kiev, is elected by a local popular vote. The current mayor of Kiev is Vitaly Klitschko, who was sworn in on June 5, 2014. After he had won the 25 May 2014 Kiev mayoral elections with almost 57% of the votes. Since June 25, 2014, Klitschko is also head of Kiev city administration. Most important buildings of the national government are located along Vulitsia Mikhaila Hrushevskaya and Vulitsia Institutska. That portion of the city is also unofficially known as the government quarter. The city also has a great number of buildings for various embassies, ministerial and other important buildings. The city-state administration and council is located in the Kiev city's council building on Kyiv Street. The Oblast State Administration and Council is located in the Kiev Oblast Council building on Ploshcha Ukrainki. The Kiev Svyatoshin Rayon State Administration is located near Kiltsa Vadorya on Prospect Peremoi, while the Kiev Svyatoshin Rayon Local Council is located on Vulitsia Yantana. Politics. The growing political and economic role of the city, combined with its international relations, as well as extensive internet and social network penetration, have made Kiev the most pro-Western and pro-democracy region of Ukraine. National democratic parties advocating tighter integration with the European Union receive most votes during elections in Kiev. In a poll conducted by Kiev International Institute of Sociology in the first half of February 2014, 5.3% of those polled in Kiev believed Ukraine and Russia must unite into a single state. Nationwide this percentage was 12.5. Subdivisions. The first known formal subdivision of Kiev dates to 1810 when the city was subdivided into four parts, Pashevsk, Starokiev, and the first and the second parts of Podil. In 1833–1834 according to Tsar Nicholas I's decree, Kiev was subdivided into 6 police rayons, later being increased to 10. In 1917, there were 8 rayon councils, which were reorganized by Bolsheviks into 6-party territory rayons. During the Soviet era, as the city was expanding, the number of rayons also gradually increased. These newer districts of the city, along with some older areas, were then named in honor of prominent communists and socialist revolutionary figures. However, due to the way in which many Communist Party members eventually, after a certain period of time, fell out of favor and so were replaced with new, fresher minds, so too did the names of Kiev's districts change accordingly. The last rayon reform took place in 2001 when the number of rayons has been decreased from 14 to 10. Under Oleksandr Omelchenko, there were further plans for the merger of some rayons and revision of their boundaries, and the total number of rayons had been planned to be decreased from 10 to 7. With the election of the new mayor-elect in 2006, these plans were shelved. Formal subdivision. Administratively, the city is divided into rayons, which have their own locally elected governments with jurisdiction over a limited scope of affairs. Presently, there are 10 rayons. Municipal rayons in the city include, informal subdivision. The Dnieper River naturally divides Kiev into the right bank and the left bank areas. Historically located on the western right bank of the river, the city expanded into the left bank only in the 20th century. Most of Kiev's attractions as well as the majority of business and governmental institutions are located on the right bank. The eastern left bank is predominantly residential. There are large industrial and green areas in both the right bank and the left bank. Kiev is further informally divided into historical or territorial neighborhoods, each housing from about 5,000 to 100,000 inhabitants. Demographics. According to the official registration statistics, there were 70062847200000028472000 residents within the city limits of Kiev in July 2013. Historical population. According to the All-Ukrainian Census, the population of Kiev in 2001 was 2,611,300. The historic changes in population are shown in the side table. According to the census, men accounted for 1,219,000 persons, or 46.7%, and women for 1,393,000 persons, or 53.3%. Comparing the results with the previous census shows the trend of population aging which, while prevalent throughout the country, is partly offset in Kiev by the inflow of working-age migrants. Some 1,069,700 people had higher or completed secondary education, a significant increase of 21.7% since 1989. The June 2007 unofficial population estimate based on amount of bakery products sold in the city gave a number of at least 3.5 million people. Ethnic composition. According to the 2001 census data, more than 130 nationalities and ethnic groups reside within the territory of Kiev. Ukrainians constitute the largest ethnic group in Kiev, and they account for 2,110,800 people, or 82.2% of the population. Russians comprise 337,300, Jews 17,900, Belarusians 16,500, Poles 6,900, Armenians 4,900, Azerbaijanis 2,600, Tatars 2,500, Georgians 2,400, Moldovans 1,900. Both Ukrainian and Russian are commonly spoken in the city. Approximately 75% of Kiev's population responded Ukrainian to the 2001 census question in their native language, roughly 25% responded Russian. According to a 2006 survey, Ukrainian is used at home by 23% of Kievans, 52% use Russian and 24% switch between both. In the 2003 sociological survey, when the question, "What language do you use in everyday life?" was asked, 52% said mostly Russian, 32% both Russian and Ukrainian in equal measure, 14% mostly Ukrainian, and 4.3% exclusively Ukrainian. Most of the city's population of Muslims comprises Tatars, Caucasians and other people from the former Soviet Union. The Arama Mosque was built in 2000. Jewish community. The Jews in Kiev are first mentioned in a 10th-century letter. They experienced several pogroms, including the Babi Yar massacre during the Holocaust. Today there are approximately 20,000 Jews in Kiev, with two major synagogues. Cityscape. Modern Kiev is a mix of the old and the new, seen in everything from the architecture to the stores and to the people themselves. When the capital of the Ukrainian SSR was moved from Kharkiv to Kiev, many new buildings were commissioned to give the city the gloss and polish of a capital. In the discussions centered on how to create a showcase city center, the current city center of kญ้ijɪf and Maidan's Elise Dynasty were not the obvious choices. Some of the early, ultimately not materialized, ideas included a part of Pashevsk, Lvivsky, European Square and Mikhailivska Square. The plans of building massive monuments were also abandoned. Due to lack of money and because of Kiev's hilly landscape. Experiencing rapid population growth between the 1970s and the mid-1990s, the city has continued its consistent growth after the turn of the millennium. As a result, Kiev's central districts provide a dotted contrast of new, modern buildings among the pale yellows, blues and greys of older apartments. Urban sprawl has gradually reduced, while population densities of suburbs has increased. The most expensive properties are located in the Pashevsk and kญ้ijɪf areas. It is also prestigious to own a property in newly constructed buildings in the Kharkivsk rayon or Obolon along the Dnieper. Ukrainian independence at the turn of the millennium has heralded other changes. Western-style residential complexes, modern nightclubs, classy restaurants and prestigious hotels opened in the center. And most importantly, with the easing of the visa rules in 2005, Ukraine is positioning itself as a prime tourist attraction, with Kiev, among the other large cities, looking to profit from new opportunities. The center of Kiev has been cleaned up and buildings have been restored and redecorated, especially Kyiv and Maidan's Elise Honesty. Many historic areas of Kiev, such as Andriivsky Descent, have become popular street vendor locations, where one can find traditional Ukrainian art, religious items, books, game sets as well as jewelry for sale. At the United Nations Climate Change Conference 2009, Kiev was the only Commonwealth of Independent States city to have been inscribed into the TOP30 European Green City Index. Kiev's most famous historical architecture complexes are the St. Sophia Cathedral and the Kiev Metro, which are recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Noteworthy historical architectural landmarks also include the Maryinsky Palace, several Orthodox churches such as St. Michael's Cathedral, St. Andrew's, St. Vladimir's, the reconstructed Golden Gate and others. One of Kiev's widely recognized modern landmarks is the highly visible giant Motherland statue made of titanium standing at the Museum of the Great Patriotic War on the right bank of the Dnieper River. Other notable sites is the cylindrical Salute Hotel, located across from Glory Square, and the Eternal Flame at the World War II Memorial Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and the House with Chimeras. Among Kiev's best-known monuments are Mikhail Mikshin's statue of Bogdan Khmelnytsky astride his horse located near St. Sophia Cathedral, the venerated Vladimir the Great, the Baptizer of Rus, overlooking the river above Podil, the monument to Kyiv, Schek and Kyiv and Libid, the legendary founders of the city located at the Dnieper embankment. On Independence Square in the city center, two monuments elevate two of the city protectors. The historic protector of Kiev Michael Archangel atop a reconstruction of one of the old city's gates and a modern invention, the goddess protector Bohinia atop a tall column. Culture. Kiev was the historic cultural center of the East Slavic civilization and a major cradle for the Christianization of Kiev and Rus. Kiev retained through centuries its cultural importance, and even at times of relative decay, it remained the center of primary importance of Eastern Orthodox Christianity. Its sacred sites, which include the Kiev Metro and the St. Sophia Cathedral, are probably the most famous, attracted pilgrims for centuries and now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, remain the primary religious centers as well as the major tourist attraction. The above-mentioned sites are also part of the Seven Wonders of Ukraine collection. Kiev's theaters include the Kiev Opera House, Ivan Franko National Academic Drama Theatre, Lemu Ukrainka National Academic Theatre of Russian Drama, the Kiev Puppet Theatre, October Palace International Philharmonic of Ukraine and others. In 1946 Kiev had 4 theatres, 1 opera house and 1 concert hall, but most tickets then were allocated to privileged groups. Other significant cultural centers include the Dovzhenko Film Studios, and the Kiev Circus. The most important of the city's many museums are the Kiev State Historical Museum, Museum of the Great Patriotic War, the National Art Museum, the Museum of Western and Oriental Art, the Pinchuk Art Center and the National Museum of Russian Art. In 2005 Kiev hosted the 50th annual Eurovision Song Contest as a result of Ruslana's Wild Dance's victory in 2004. There are numerous songs, paintings and photos dedicated to the city. Among them there is an extensive Russian, Ukrainian, Polish folklore, less known are German and Jewish. One of the better songs are called Without Podil, Kiev is Impossible on YouTube, How Not to Love You, Kiev of Mine. On YouTube, ckjiw on YouTube, and many others. Renowned Ukrainian composer Oleksandr Bilash wrote an operetta called Legend of Kiev. Attractions. It is said that one can walk from one end of Kiev to the other in the summer time without leaving the shade of its many trees. Most characteristic are the horse chestnuts, Kiev is known as a green city with 2 botanical gardens and numerous large and small parks. The World War II Museum is located here, which offers both indoor and outdoor displays of military history and equipment surrounded by verdant hills overlooking the Dnieper River. Among the numerous islands, Venetsyonsky is the most developed. It is accessible by metro or by car, and includes an amusement park, swimming beaches, boat rentals, and nightclubs. The Victory Park located near Darnitsia subway station is a popular destination for strollers, joggers, and cyclists. Boating, fishing, and water sports are popular pastimes in Kiev. The area lakes and rivers freeze over in the winter and ice fishermen are a frequent sight, as are children with their ice skates. However, the peak of summer draws out a greater mass of people to the shores for swimming or sunbathing, with daytime high temperatures sometimes reaching 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. The center of Kiev becomes a large outdoor party place at night during summer months, with thousands of people having a good time in nearby restaurants, clubs and outdoor cafes. The central streets are closed for auto traffic on weekends and holidays. Andreevsky Descent is one of the best-known historic streets and a major tourist attraction in Kiev. The hill is the site of the castle of Richard the Lionheart. The Baroque-style St. Andrew's Church. The home of Kiev-born writer, Mikhail Bulgakov. The monument to Yaroslav the Wise, the Grand Prince of Kiev and of Novgorod. And numerous other monuments. A wide variety of farm produce is available in many of Kiev's farmer markets, with the Besarazki market located in the very center of the city being most famous. Each residential region has its own market, or rynok. Here one will find table after table of individuals hawking everything imaginable: vegetables, fresh and smoked meats, fish, cheese, honey, dairy products such as milk and homemade smetana, caviar, cut flowers, housewares, tools and hardware, and clothing. Each of the markets has its own unique mix of products, with some markets devoted solely to specific wares such as automobiles, car parts, pets, clothing, flowers, and other things. At the city's southern outskirts, near the historic Pyrohiv village, there is an outdoor museum, officially called the Museum of Folk Architecture and Life of Ukraine. It has an area of 1.5 square kilometers. This territory houses several mini-villages that represent by region the traditional rural architecture of Ukraine. Kiev also has numerous recreational attractions like bowling alleys, go-kart tracks, paintball venues, billiard halls and even shooting ranges. The 100-year-old Kiev Zoo is located on 40 hectares and according to CBC the zoo has 2,600 animals from 328 species. Museums and galleries. Kiev is home to some 40 different museums. In 2009 they recorded a total of 4.3 million visits. The Museum of the Great Patriotic War is a memorial complex commemorating the Great Patriotic War located in the hills on the right bank of the Dnieper River in Pashchersk. Kiev Fortress is the 19th-century fortification building situated in Ukrainian capital Kiev, that once belonged to Western Russian fortresses. These structures were built in the Pashcherskan neighborhoods by the Russian army. Now some of the buildings are restored and turned into a museum called the Kiev Fortress, while others are in use in various military and commercial installations. The National Art Museum of Ukraine is a museum dedicated to Ukrainian art. The Golden Gate is a historic gateway in the ancient city's walls. The name Zoloty Vorota is also used for a nearby theater and a station of the Kiev Metro. The small Ukrainian National Chernobyl Museum acts as both a memorial and historical center devoted to the events surrounding the 1986 Chernobyl disaster and its effect on the Ukrainian people, the environment, and subsequent attitudes towards the safety of nuclear power as a whole. Sports. Kiev has many professional and amateur football clubs, including Dynamo Kyiv, Arsenal Kyiv and FC Obolon Kyiv, which play in the Ukrainian Premier League. Of these three, Dynamo Kyiv has had the most success over the course of its history. For example, up until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the club won 13 USSR championships, 9 USSR Cups, and 3 USSR Super Cups, thus making Dynamo the most successful club in the history of the Soviet top league. Other prominent non-football sport clubs in the city include the Sokol Kyiv Ice Hockey Club and BC Kiev Basketball Club. Both of these teams play in the highest Ukrainian leagues for their respective sports, and whilst BC Kiev was founded just recently in 1999, Sokol was founded in 1963, during the existence of the Soviet Union. Both these teams play their home games at the Kiev Palace of Sports. During the 1980 Summer Olympics held in the Soviet Union, Kiev held the preliminary matches and the quarter-finals of the football tournament at its Olympic Stadium, which was reconstructed specially for the event. From December 1, 2008 the stadium underwent a full-scale reconstruction in order to satisfy standards put in place by UEFA for hosting the Euro 2012 football tournament. The opening ceremony took place in the presence of President Viktor Yanukovych on October 8, 2011, with the first major event being a Shakira concert, which was specially planned to coincide with the stadium's reopening during Euro 2012. Other notable sport complexes in Kiev include the Lobanovsky Dynamo Stadium, the Palace of Sports, among many others. Most Ukrainian national teams play their home international matches in Kiev. The Ukraine national football team, for example, will play matches at the reconstructed Olympic Stadium from 2011. Tourism. Since introducing a visa-free regime for EU member states and Switzerland in 2005, Ukraine has seen a steady increase in the number of foreign tourists visiting the country. Prior to the 2008 Euro 2009 recession, the average annual growth in the number of foreign visits in Kiev was 23% over a three-year period. In 2009, a total of 1.6 million tourists stayed in Kiev hotels, of which almost 259,000 were foreigners. Economy. See also, category Economy of Kiev, Economy of Ukraine. As with most capital cities, Kiev is a major administrative, cultural and scientific center of the country. It is the largest city in Ukraine in terms of both population and area and enjoys the highest levels of business activity. On January 1, 2010, there were around 238,000 business entities registered in Kiev. Official figures show that between 2004 and 2008 Kiev's economy outstripped the rest of the country's, growing by an annual average of 11.5%. Following the global financial crisis that began in 2007, Kiev's economy suffered a severe setback in 2009, with gross regional product contracting by 13.5% in real terms. Although a record high, the decline in activity was 1.6 percentage points smaller than that for the country as a whole. The economy in Kiev, as in the rest of Ukraine, recovered somewhat in 2010 and 2011. Kiev is a middle-income city, with prices currently comparable to many mid-size American cities. And despite the poverty of the rest of the country, and large tracts of Soviet apartment blocks, has a notable lack of slums. Because the city boasts a large and diverse economic base and is not dependent on any single industry and/or company, its unemployment rate has historically been relatively low, only 3.75% over 2005 Euro 2008. Indeed, even as the rate of joblessness jumped to 7.1% in 2009, it remained far below the national average of 9.6%. Kiev is the undisputed center of business and commerce of Ukraine and home to the country's largest companies, such as Naftogaz Ukraini, Energorinok and Kyivstar. In 2010, the city accounted for 18% of national retail sales and 24% of all construction activity. Indeed, real estate is one of the major forces in Kiev's economy. Average prices of apartments are the highest in the country and among the highest in Eastern Europe. Kiev also ranks high in terms of commercial real estate, for it is here where the country's tallest office buildings and some of Ukraine's biggest shopping malls are located. In May 2011, Kiev authorities presented a 15-year development strategy which calls for attracting as much as €82 a billion of foreign investment by 2025 to modernize the site unregistered trademark transport and utilities infrastructure and make it more attractive for tourists. Euro data not available. Euro calculated at annual average official exchange rate. a Euro-ALO methodology. Industry. Primary industries in Kiev include utilities, a Euro that is, electricity, gas and water supply, manufacture of food, beverages and tobacco products, chemical, mechanical engineering and manufacture of paper and paper products, including publishing, printing and reproduction of recorded media. The Institute of Oil Transportation is headquartered here. Education and science. Scientific research is conducted in many institutes of higher education and, additionally, in many research institutes affiliated with the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences. Kiev is home to Ukraine's Ministry of Education and Science, and is also noted for its contributions to medical and computer science research. There are many libraries in the city, with the Vynadsky National Library, which is Ukraine's main academic library and scientific information center, as well as one of the world's largest national libraries, being the largest and most important one. The National Library is affiliated with the Academy of Sciences insofar as it is a deposit library and thus serves as the Academy's archive store. Interestingly, the National Library is the world Euro unregistered trademark's foremost repository of Jewish folk music recorded on Edison wax cylinders. Their collection of Jewish musical folklore was inscribed on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register in 2005. Kiev hosts many universities, the major ones being Kiev National Taras Shevchenko University, the National Technical University Kiev Polytechnic Institute, and the Kyiv Mula Academy. Of these, the Mula Academy is the oldest outright, having been founded as a theological school in 1632. However, the Shevchenko University, which was founded in 1834, is the oldest in continuous operation. The total number of institutions of higher education in Kiev currently approaches 200, allowing young people to pursue almost any line of study. While education traditionally remains largely in the hands of the state, there are several accredited private institutions in the city. There are about 530 general secondary schools and circa 680 nursery schools and kindergartens in Kiev. Additionally, there are evening schools for adults, and specialist technical schools. Transportation. Local public transport. Local public transportation in Kiev includes the metro, buses and minibuses, trolleybuses, trams, taxi and funicular. There is also an intra-city ring railway service. The publicly owned and operated Kiev Metro is the fastest, the most convenient and affordable network that covers most, but not all, of the city. The metro is continuously expanding towards the city limits to meet growing demand, currently having 3 lines with a total length of 66.1 kilometers and 51 stations. The metro carries around 1.422 million passengers daily, accounting for 38% of the Kiev's public transport load. In 2011, the total number of trips exceeded 519 million. The historic tram system, once a well-maintained and widely used method of transport, is now gradually being phased out in favor of buses and trolleybuses. All public road transport is operated by the United Kyivavtotrans municipal company. It is heavily subsidized by the city. The Kiev public transport system, except for taxi, uses a simple flat-rate tariff system regardless of distance traveled. Tickets or tokens must be purchased each time a vehicle is boarded. Digital ticket system is already established in Kiev Metro, with plans for other transport modes. Discount passes are available for grade school and higher education students. Pensioners use public transportation free. There are monthly passes in all combinations of public transportation. Ticket prices are regulated by the city government, and the cost of one ride is far lower than in Western Europe. The taxi market in Kiev is expansive but not regulated. In particular, the taxi fare per kilometer is not regulated. There is a fierce competition between private taxi companies. Roads and bridges. Kiev represents the focal point of Ukraine's national roads system, thus linked by road to all cities of the country. European routes, and cross Kiev. There are 8 over Dnieper bridges and dozens of grade-separated intersections in the city. Several new intersections are under construction. There are plans to build a full-size, fully grade-separated ring road around Kiev. Overall, Kiev roads are in poor technical condition and maintained inadequately. Traffic jams and lack of parking space are growing problems for all road transport services in Kiev. Air transport: Kiev is served by two international passenger airports, the Boryspil Airport located 30 kilometers away, and the smaller, municipally owned Tsyulyny Airport on the southern outskirts of the city. There are also the Gostomel Cargo Airport and additional 3 operating airfields facilitating the Antonov Aircraft Manufacturing Company and general aviation. Railways: Railways are Kiev a Euro 1 registered trademark S main mode of intracity and suburban transportation. The city has a developed railroad infrastructure including a long-distance passenger station, 6 cargo stations, depots, and repairing facilities. However, this system still fails to meet the demand for passenger service. Particularly, the Kiev Passenger Railway Station is the city's only long-distance passenger terminal. Construction is underway for turning the large Darnitsia railway station on the left bank part of Kiev into a long-distance passenger hub, which may ease traffic at the central station. Bridges over the Dnieper River are another problem restricting the development of cited a Euro 1 registered trademark S railway system. Presently, only 1 rail bridge out of 2 is available for intense train traffic. A new combined rail-auto bridge is under construction, as a part of Darnitsia project. In 2011 the Kiev City Administration established a new urban train for Kiev. This service runs at standard 4-10-minute intervals throughout the day and follows a circular route around the city center, which allows it to serve many of Kiev's inner suburbs. Interchanges between the Kiev Metro and fast tram exist at many of the urban trains station stops. Suburban electric ќijiw trains are serviced by the publicly owned Ukrainian railways. The suburban train service is fast, and unbeatably safe in terms of traffic accidents. But the trains are not reliable, as they may fall significantly behind schedule, may not be safe in terms of crime, and the electric ќijiw cars are poorly maintained and are overcrowded in rush hours. There are 5 electric ќijiw directions from Kiev: Nizhyn, Binka, Myronova, Fastiv, Korosten. More than a dozen of electric ќijiw stops are located within the city, allowing residents of different neighborhoods to use the suburban trains. International relations. Twin towns and sister cities: Kiev is twinned with, Honor, Kiev Peninsula in Graham Land, Antarctica is named after the city of Kiev. References. External links.